I never expected a little girl's gesture would bring a lonely CEO to tears on his birthday. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I stood there, watching the clock tick away the last seconds of my 29th year. The office was quiet, too quiet. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, a sound echoing my increasing loneliness. My hand trembled as I reached for the last piece of cold, unappetizing cake left from last week's board meeting. They forgot my birthday, not that I had expected anything more than silence. Everyone around me was busy chasing profits, not pausing for someone like me. After all, who would invest time in the lonely CEO? Just then, the door creaked open. A small figure stepped inside. A little girl, no more than 6, with messy pigtails and a bright yellow dress that seemed to glow under the dim lights. Her eyes sparkled with a mischief that stole the air from my lungs. She clutched something small behind her back, hidden from view, her tiny frame trembling with a mixture of excitement and shyness. Excuse me, mister, she began, her voice small yet strong enough to shatter the silence. I blinked, caught off guard. Nobody ever called me mister. It felt foreign, awkward, like an old coat that no longer fit. Yes. I managed to respond, leaning closer, curiosity piqued. I made you something. She revealed an intricately folded paper crane, a stunning mix of colors that danced like a vibrant sunset. It felt like she'd sculpted magic. It's for your birthday. My mommy says you need to smile more. My chest tightened. Could a simple gesture from this little girl really pierce through the armor I'd built? I took it, my fingers brushing against her small, warm hand. Tears stung the corners of my eyes. I hadn't allowed myself a moment of vulnerability in ages, let alone in the presence of someone so innocent. But as I stared at the crane, something shifted in the air. The atmosphere grew heavy, thick with unspoken words. The little girl's smile faded slightly, as if she sensed a shameful secret lurking just beneath the surface. In that instant, a murmur rose outside the office door. I heard hushed voices, a mix of urgency and concern. The rhythm of my heart quickened once more, drowning out the silence. There's something I need to tell you, she whispered, her expression shifting from joyful to serious. It's about your birthday. A sudden wave of dread washed over me. Was it more than just a simple gift? My stomach knotted tightly as I instinctively glanced towards the door, sensing an unseen storm looming. What could this little girl know that would turn a heartfelt gesture into an avalanche of revelations? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The little girl's gaze held mine, a steady beam that pierced through my fog of sadness. I could feel the world around us fading, shrinking into a distant memory, leaving just the two of us suspended in a moment where everything felt strangely possible. But that sense of wonder flickered, darting away as her next words hung heavy in the air between us. Sometimes bad things happen, and I think you might be sad because of that, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she were sharing a deep secret. A chill ran down my spine, and the cake in my hand felt heavier than lead. What do you mean? I asked, the knot in my stomach tightening further. How could a child so young even begin to grasp the enormity of that question? She took a hesitant step closer, her small fingers fiddling with the hem of her dress. I heard my mommy talking. She said you are alone, and that makes you sad, but you can be different. You just have to let people in. A lump formed in my throat. The truth tasted bitter. I was alone. Yes, I had built an empire out of the rubble of my past, but at what cost? In my pursuit of success, I had pushed away every hand seeking connection, every smile that could have lit up my life. I don't know if I can, I murmured, the words escaping involuntarily. The little girl stepped back, the warmth of our moment shattering abruptly. I think you can. You just have to try, she said, her encouragement carrying the tenacity of youth. It's like building a tower with blocks. You start small, and it can become something big. Her optimism was a stark contrast to my reality. My fortress of solitude felt impenetrable, the walls too thick, too fortified. But even in that moment of vulnerability, hope flickered, tiny and fragile. Before I could respond, the door swung wide open, revealing my assistant, Ellen, her face painted with urgency. Sir, we need to. She stopped short, her eyes darting between us, confusion etched in her expression. Oh, I didn't realize you were. I quickly wiped the dampness from my face and forced a tight smile. It's fine, Ellen. I hoped my feigned calm wouldn't expose the turmoil churning within me. Your meeting with the investors, she began again, but I could already feel the weight of expectation crowding back in. I'll be there in a moment, I said, a firmness creeping into my tone. Ellen nodded, still uncertain, her gaze lingering on the little girl. Miss? She asked, kneeling to meet the girl at eye level. What are you doing here? I gave Mr. a birthday gift. She chirped, her spirit unbroken despite the abrupt shift in the atmosphere. My heart warmed at her unabashed joy, a beacon amid the storm. Ellen's skeptical expression softened, and for a fleeting moment, the busy world outside melted away, replaced by the innocence of this moment. That's very sweet of you. A small smile crept onto Ellen's lips as she glanced at me now. Perhaps you could both celebrate together. A little birthday party, just the three of us. The girl's eyes widened. Yes. That would be fun. The suggestion hung in the air, tempting, but I hesitated. The looming shadow of my responsibilities felt suffocating. I really can't right now, I said, unable to shake off the dread clawing at my insides, but you should. The girl insisted, her resolve unwavering. Everyone should be happy on their birthday. It's supposed to be special. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed at the edge of my desk, pulling me back into the constraints of reality. I glanced at the screen, the bright alert startling my resolve, an urgent message from my father's attorney. My heart raced. What could they possibly want now? I started to say, feeling torn once more. But the child's pleading gaze pinned me in place, striving to break through my layers of doubt. Please. She urged softly, an innocent plea that clawed at my heart. Just then, the phone buzzed again with another message, and in that moment of distraction, the walls ID built around me began to tremble, crumbling just enough to let a sliver of light in. Yet, for every small moment of hope, a wave of fear crashed over me. As I weighed my options, torn between duty and the possibility of a fleeting moment of joy, I felt the urge to change both terrible and beautiful as if I stood on the precipice of something unknown, and then, my phone buzzed one last time, a notification that chilled me to the core. Your father has requested an immediate meeting regarding your family's estate. Suddenly, the little girl's laughter felt miles away, all but erased by the weight of an impending storm I had long hoped to avoid. Would this be the moment that broke me apart, or the catalyst I needed to begin living again? The room felt smaller, the air thicker. The message on my phone echoed in my mind like a haunting melody, bringing up a deluge of emotions I thought I had buried deep. I looked at the little girl, her eyes sparkling with hope, unaware of the shadows looming over me. But my voice cracked, the words faltering on the edge of uncertainty. I'll try, I finally whispered, the notion of letting her light pierce through my darkness seeming more like a lifeline than an obligation. The girl's face lit up, radiating joy as if she had just won a game or discovered a hidden treasure. Really? We can celebrate together, she asked, her innocence touching something long forgotten within myself. Yes, I breathed deeply, as if I were allowing the air to fill not only my lungs but also the spaces in my heart I had allowed to gather dust. Let's have a birthday party. Just the three of us. Yay! She squealed, bouncing on her tiny feet. Every ounce of my resolve felt challenged by this one sweet soul whose faith managed to seep through the cracks of my fortress. Ellen's smile widened, and for the first time in many years, I felt the stirrings of laughter bubbling within me. But even in that moment of brightness, a dark cloud loomed overhead. My father's attorney had always signified complicated family matters I wanted to avoid at all costs. The estate was a morass of obligations, expectations, and the unacknowledged grief tethering me to my past. I could feel my heart sinking, heavy with the weight of the choices ahead. After Ellen hurried off to gather refreshments, I knelt to the girl's level. "What's your name?" I asked, wanting to anchor myself in this moment, the bond growing between us. "Lily," she exclaimed, her smile growing wider, every toothbrushed sparkle bursting with enthusiasm. "And what's your name, Scott?" I replied, surprised at how easy it felt to share. "How old are you, Lily?" 6.5, she declared proudly, placing one hand on her hip and puffing out her chest. "But on my birthday in a few months, it'll be 7, and I'll be able to stay up way past my bedtime." I couldn't help but chuckle. "You'll still need to eat your veggies," I teased. She scrunched up her nose, her laughter a delightful sound filling the void I had become so accustomed to. It was astonishing how the simplicity of her joys was contagious, pulling me out from beneath layers of gray. "Can you help me with my birthday party? I want it to be the best ever." She enthused as she began to gather the crayons scattered on my desk, her little fingers working with unwavering determination. "Of course. Let's make it special." The word sounded foreign, exhilarating and terrifying all at once. The prospect of creating those moments filled me with dread and an unexpected spark, the kind that comes when confronting fears twisted like vines around my heart. As time passed, Ellen returned with cupcakes adorned with colorful sprinkles and a few balloons the girl had insisted on choosing. "We can't celebrate without balloons," she had insisted, her infectious enthusiasm commanding a reward to indulge. A small giggle escaped my lips, and for a fleeting moment, I watched as she danced across the office, releasing the balloons into the air. For a heartbeat, the weight of my father's impending demand slipped away, allowing room for laughter to weave itself into my being, the first thread of joy in what felt like an eternity. "Wish for something," Lily exclaimed, her eyes shimmering with the thrill of the moment. I closed my eyes, allowing the air around me to fill with possibilities. I could sense the cocoon of loneliness starting to fray, but the urgency to face the impending storm loomed heavier than ever. Setting aside my anxieties, I made a silent wish, one of courage to face what I'd been running from. "I wished for you to be happy today," Lily said, her bright voice interrupting my reverie. The sincerity in her words cut through me, unraveling yet another layer of the burdens weighing on my heart. The sheer selflessness of a child swallowing up the intricacies of the adult world was astonishing. "Thank you," I replied. Emotion swelling once more, nearly overwhelming me. Just then, the calmness shattered. My phone buzzed again, the screen illuminating with a notification I dreaded. "Your father's attorney is waiting in the lobby." Cold dread pooled in my stomach, my fleeting warmth slipping away as I glanced at Lily's glowing face and then toward the door. She was unaware of the shadow ready to eclipse the sunshine we had created, and I could feel that tension gnawing at my resolve. Should I allow them to ruin this moment, Scott? Lily interrupted my thoughts, peering up at me. Her tone was laced with concern, as if she felt the shift in atmosphere. "Are you okay?" I hesitated, wanting to shield her innocent spirit from the impending tide of reality. My heart raced, torn between the girl who had illuminated this day with joy and the looming chaos of family obligation. "Something's coming, isn't it?" she asked perceptively. I nodded slowly, uncertainty swarming around me like a tempest. "Yes, but sometimes life can surprise us when we create room for it." Lily stepped closer, her small hand reaching out to hold mine. "You don't have to be afraid, Scott. I'm here." The weight of her simple gesture was both empowering and disheartening. Would I allow her light to inspire the courage buried beneath my fears, or retreat into my shell once again? I took a deep breath, preparing my words, but found myself at a crossroads. The choice lay before me: would I let the world around me extinguish this small flame, or could I muster the strength to protect it from the encroaching darkness? Whatever the answer, all I knew was that, in this moment, the stakes were higher than they had ever been before. And as my heart beat in sync with Lily's unwavering conviction, I braced myself for a confrontation that could either destroy me or become the rescue I so desperately needed. The air felt electric as I stood frozen, Lily's small hand gripping mine with an innocence that was both comforting and bewildering. It was insane how quickly she had become a focal point in my tumultuous life, a bright light beckoning me to navigate the shadows that loomed so heavily around us. But there was no denying that a storm was approaching, and despite Lily's unwavering presence, I couldn't escape the reality of the interlude flashing insistently on my phone screen. Each buzz was a reminder of the intimidating force that awaited me, the Eternian embodiment of the burdens I'd been carrying since my father had unexpectedly passed away, dragging his complex legacy with him. Do you want to open the door? Lily's voice chimed, nudging me back into the moment. I looked down at her, her eyes wide, filled with unrelenting trust. For a second, I contemplated bending to her light, letting this small celebration mark a significant pivot in my heart. But how could I let her sweetness intersect with the harshness of my parental obligations? I felt myself pulling inward, the walls around my heart tightening as tension coiled around my stomach. Not just yet, Lily, I finally replied, trying to hold her gaze but also fearing the door behind me like a covered wound. Let's enjoy this moment a little longer. Let them wait, her face brightened at my words. Yes. Let's pretend we're at a magic party. She exclaimed, jumping back into the whirlwind of imagination. She spun around, twirling and giggling as if the chaos of my mind had become a party of its own in her world that I watched, mesmerized, as she twirled until she plopped onto the soft carpet, her laughter like music spilling into the corners of my darkness. Each sound seemed to chip away at my apprehensions, and for a moment, I felt the urge to join her in what was undeniably blissful. Lily, what's your favorite magic trick? I asked, searching for an anchor, yet, the gaze she returned held immense weight as if she understood the cracks in my facade that I can turn sadness into happiness. She proclaimed, rising as if a magician on stage. Whenever I'm sad, I just think of the best birthday cake in the whole wide world. I chuckled softly, wanting to believe her, intrigued by the way sheer belief transformed her outlook. And how do you imagine that cake? I asked, coaxing curiosity to dance in her mind. Oh, it's huge. With pink frosting and rainbow sprinkles. And it has layers and layers for everyone. She exclaimed, her animated expression painted the room with enthusiasm that desperately tugged at me to feel lighter. I found myself leaning into this moment, allowing Lily's simple pleasures to seep through the hardened layers of despair. Could it be possible to turn something that felt so heavy as the estate issues into layers of warmth? Yet, the thought faded as quickly as it came, overshadowed by the phone buzzing again, causing my heart to plummet once more. Wait, let's make it look like that cake. Lily cried suddenly, darting to gather crayons and paper. You help me draw it, okay? Feeling tears prick the corners of my eyes, I nodded, kneeling on the floor beside her, searching for a way to immerse myself in the warmth she radiated. As our crayons began to move across the paper, sketching a cake that resembled every birthday wish a child could have, layers stacked like my own internal conflicts, I felt years of loneliness punctured by moments of joy. This drawing was a bridge, a reminder of the magic woven into laughter and connection, despite the impending shadows looming at the threshold. Just as the cake emerged from the chaotic hues of imagination, a gentle knock echoed through the office, startling us both. It was soft yet firm, enough to break the silence that had built around Lily's laughter and my newfound resolve. In that instant, the air thickened again, pulling me back into the clutches of anxiety. I drew a deep breath, glancing between Lily's hopeful eyes and the door, knowing I couldn't ignore my responsibilities. Lily tilted her head, her brows pulling together as concern creased her tiny forehead. Scott? She asked softly, sensing my shift. You don't have to go, right? Sweetheart, we can't avoid everything, I murmured, my voice low and gravelly, like it belonged to someone else. But I want to know, how do you turn sadness into happiness? Lily's eyes sparkled, reminiscent of the balloons she so adored. By being brave, she said, her assurance unwavering. You can be brave, I know it. Like a hero. Her words resonated within me, intertwining with the feelings I had been shoving down. Okay. I'll be brave. As I stood up, letting go of her hand reluctantly, I glanced back at the colorful cake. We hadn't finished drawing it yet. And what if I don't come back right away? I asked cautiously, feeling vulnerable amidst the monumental choice before me. Lily stared earnestly, her small body clad in the innocence of a child's world. I'll just make another cake. A giant one. One that will fill all the sadness in the world with happiness. Her words lingered, a soothing balm for my anxious heart. It was both magical and heart-wrenching, the thought of a huge cake mysteriously able to fill the chasms of sorrow lingering within me. I'll be right back, I promised, though my heart felt heavier now than it had since I'd engaged with her. Bring back all the happiness. She called after me, her voice a distant echo as I walked to the door, bracing myself against the gravity waiting on the other side. With one last look over my shoulder, I took a breath and opened the door, only to be met by the cool stare of my father's attorney, a briefcase in his hand and a timeline of obligations radiating off him like a palpable shadow. But just as I prepared to step into that world of complication, my phone buzzed again, a new message lighting up the screen. I glanced down, heart racing at the name that appeared. My father's old assistant had sent a video that could either shatter or build yet another part of my heart. Open it, she encouraged in the message preview, with nothing but an exclamation mark following. The door poised open behind me felt like an open wound, the intensity of what lay ahead, both exhilarating and daunting. For a fleeting moment, I hovered on the edge of two worlds, the vibrant, colorful cake still vivid in my mind versus the sterile, intimidating office that awaited. In a heartbeat, I felt suspended in time, left to wonder, would I dare open the video and risk yet another revelation threatening my world? The anticipation hung in the air, a fragile thread as I stared at the blinking cursor. The door behind me opened into the frigid air of legal matters and the memory of my father's disappointments, while the phone held the promise of something else, something that could incite joy or incite despair in equal measure. Steeling myself, I glanced back at Lily, her laughter still echoing in my mind, a sweet reassurance amid the chaos. All the happiness, I muttered to myself as I finally lifted my finger to tap the screen, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The video flickered to life, and my father's face filled the small screen, aged but vibrant, eyes sparkling with the warmth I had long forgotten. If you're watching this, I'm sure things have gotten complicated. And they will continue to be, he began, humor hiding behind a delicate balance of wisdom. But remember, Scott, life's beauty often lies in the little moments we brush aside. Don't forget the magic in the mundane. His words felt like tendrils wrapping around my heart, drawing me into a memory both cherished and complex. As I watched him smile, I could feel the laughter I had shared with him, the times he had tried to teach me how to embrace the joy in life's uncertainties. That I took your mother out for ice cream on a day exactly like today, he continued, the sound of his voice both a bomb and a dagger. We made a mess, too, but it was the kind of mess that we laughed ourselves hoarse over, a distraction from all the burdens we carried. My boy, don't ever forget you can find joy, even in the thick of it. And with that, the video ended abruptly, leaving the sound of static behind, as if it were echoing in the vast emptiness of my heart. The powerful nostalgia fought against the weariness, bringing tears to my eyes as I remembered a father who had wanted nothing but the best for me, often forgetting to prioritize the simple joys like ice cream on a sunny day. Scott? Came a voice from the threshold, breaking my reverie. It was Lily, peeking around the door, concern etched across her small face. Are you okay? I turned away from the door to face her, desperately chasing away the sorrow that threatened to burst forth. I'm good, I lied, forcing a smile that wobbled as it reached my lips. Did you get magical news? She asked, stepping further into the room, her innocent face searching mine for the truth. Yes, a kind of magic, I said, kneeling so that I was eye level with her. Your cake idea was a good one. Sometimes happiness is about finding the little moments to celebrate, like ice cream or laughter. As if by divine intervention, the very mention of ice cream sparked a flicker of joy in her eyes. I love ice cream. Can we have some? Can we, please? She pleaded, bouncing on her toes, a whirlwind of energy, the unfamiliar lightness in my heart urged me to embrace her spontaneity. "Okay, let's go find some ice cream." That simple outing took form, and for a brief moment, the world outside felt lighter, unshackled from burdens of legacy and expectation. We jostled through the bustling streets, with Lily's vibrant laughter floating around me like whispered secrets, pulling me away from sorrow and into the present. As we approached the local ice cream parlor, its cheerful colors felt like an invitation, beckoning us to indulge. The air was filled with the sweet scent of vanilla and chocolate, both familiar and intoxicating. We stepped inside, and as I watched her excitement point at flavor after flavor, the dark clouds of my past seemed to ease. "Can I get sprinkles?" Lily asked, her eyes sparkling like the toppings she adored. "Of course, the more, the merrier," I replied, and as the ice cream scooper piled my cone high, I let myself enjoy this slice of banal but transformative happiness. When we settled at a nearby table, Lily adorned her creation with an explosive array of sprinkles, relishing every bite as her face lit up with delight. Just watching her was enough to thaw the icy tendrils of doubt still gripping my heart. "This is the best birthday ever," she declared, her mouth full and laughter bursting forth like free-spirited fireworks. For that moment, I allowed myself to believe her words. The joyful laughter felt contagious, and as we sat together, her little hand touching mine, everything seemed to shimmer with a newfound promise. But as we finished our ice creams, and I caught the clock on the wall moving closer to the hour we'd promised to return for the meeting, an unsettling wave crashed over me. The exhilaration dissipated as quickly as it had come, and I grasped the weight of my responsibilities like a stone pressing against my chest. "Lily," I began, guilt quickly creeping in, "let's draw another cake." She interrupted, scrambling to her feet with a burst of enthusiasm. "One with even more sprinkles. Then I can help make happiness flow into everything." As her joy thrummed in the air around us, I was staggered by her determination to infuse joy even in the face of uncertainty. I could feel the tears prick again, a sweet ache forming in my chest as I realized that I had isolated myself for too long, forgetting how little moments could paint a brighter tomorrow. "Okay," I breathed, fighting to cling to her hope. The door back to my reality loomed not far, shadows whispered promises of all that awaited. But we have to hurry. With a rush of adrenaline, we made our way back to the office, the echo of happiness trailing behind us, twisting my heart as I contemplated the uncertain road ahead. The door radiated that familiar chill as we approached, and standing before it meant facing what had been brewing these past weeks. As I reached out, hand poised on the handle, I felt Lily's small grip on my fingers tighten. "Let's make the biggest cake ever," she cheered, unaware of the impending confrontation awaiting me with the attorney. With one final glance down at her hopeful smile, I drew in a long breath, heart racing with the weight of truths yet to be unveiled. I could feel the world shift behind me, and while I was about to step back into the deep, cold tragedy of my family's legacy, I couldn't shake the undeniable feeling that this moment could change everything. But just as I clasped the doorknob, a text alert came through, the screen flashing with unexpected news: a notification from my father's old assistant. My heart froze, anticipation clawing at my insides. "Scott, you need to see this. It changes everything." That I paused, emotions swirling like a tempest in my chest. As I glanced down to read the message, the door creaked at the beginnings of an unforgiving reality, and I contemplated the choice laid before me. Would the gifts of this world be enough to guide me in times of doubt, or would I shatter beneath its weight? I never expected a little girl's gesture would bring a lonely CEO to tears on his birthday. The silence in the air was palpable, fractured only by the muffled sound of buzzing traffic outside. My hand trembled on the doorknob as the words from Lily echoed in my mind. But the message on my screen loomed large: "It changes everything." A rush of adrenaline coursed through me, intertwining with the uncertainty that surrounded this moment. "I'll be right back," I said quickly, detaching my fingers from Lily's grip with a lingering sense of regret. Her eyes widened, confusion shadowing her face as I stepped back, torn between the past's revelation and the present's promise. "But Scott, the cake," she stammered, her small, hopeful voice fraying just a little at the edges. It was incredible how deeply a tiny child like her could touch my heart, and the disappointment that crossed her features felt like a blade turned against me. Each step away felt heavy, filled with the weight of her radiant joy that I feared I might snuff out. "You'll be back, I promise," I urged, even though I felt the truth of that statement slip away like ice cream melting under a hot sun. I turned to the door, my mind racing with a mixture of dread and anticipation as I stepped inside the stuffy room, cloaked with the stark sterility of corporate reality. The stark contrasts of the world outside, the laughter, the sprinkles, the warmth blurred in the harsh light of a world that seemed indifferent to those fleeting moments of joy. The attorney, Mr. Collins, sat at his desk, flipping through a dossier filled with the remnants of my father's complicated legacy. Where I had hoped for a seamless glide into clarity, I found only tension as he looked up, eyebrows furrowing in contemplation. Small lines etched themselves around his mouth, a sign of concern, perhaps, or dreaded anticipation. "Scott," he began, his voice as dry and crackling as autumn leaves beneath footsteps, "I believe it's time we discussed some changes your father made before his passing. There are ramifications." Each word was a drumbeat in my ears, marking the rhythm of an encroaching storm. I focused on the patterns in the carpet, a supposed comfort in its familiarity as I braced myself. "What kind of changes?" I managed, ending my ambiguous question with a tentative hope to Mr. Collins exhaled roughly, taking a moment to search my face for understanding. "Your father shifted control of the family business into your name, but also secretly established a trust for a non-profit organization he was founded on principles he intended to uphold. Its history, hidden behind the facade of success. The intention was to preserve his legacy, but... I pressed, my heart quickening. The air thickened with every second of silence that he also left details on a possible legal battle initiated by a former partner seeking to reclaim control over that charity, he revealed. "You may have to defend against it, and it's not something we can ignore." The room shifted, the walls pressing closer in as dread flooded through me. I was expected to navigate my father's missteps, swimming through a mess I had never been prepared for, all while clinging to the small dimension of happiness that Lily represented. Ice cream and drawing cakes felt so distant now, mere wisps of joy overshadowed by the looming presence of corporate conflict. Suddenly, the vibrancy of the ice cream parlor, with its sprinkles and laughter, felt trampled underfoot by this weighty reality, losing its gloss as commercialism bled out happiness. I took a deep breath, willing myself to keep the promise I had just made to Lily, but the essence of that promise felt fragile in the glaring light of truth. The attorney continued, detailing what legal hurdles I could potentially face, but every word carried my thoughts elsewhere. Memories of my father's laughter swung back and forth in my mind, overwhelming me with a wave of nostalgia. Hadn't he wanted me to chase sunshine and laughter like Lily did? Life's magic was supposed to arise in these moments, but here I stood, facing the potential fracture of all. That dashed hope. As the conversation tapered off into a silence thick with dread, I barely registered the passage of time. My thoughts wove patterns telling me this was my legacy now, my burden alone, and the joyful moments I had chased with Lily felt like sand slipping through my fingers. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. My heart skipped, mindful that it may just carry more weight than either the conversation I had had or the promise I had made. "It's from Lily," I muttered, glancing down, and the content of the text knocked the breath from my lungs. "Scott, I drew you a surprise. Come look. Hurry." Something sparked within me, an urge to escape this world of expectations and heavy burdens. I took one last look at Mr. Collins, who was gathering his documents with the indifference of years spent in the trenches of corporate warfare. Far from it, I merged back into the world beyond, searching for the bright-eyed girl who had gifted me that moment of magic. I hurried outside, concern turning my quickened steps to urgency. As I rushed back, I spotted Lily sitting at a nearby bench, a canvas resting on her lap, eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Scott! Look!" she called, waving wildly. My heart clenched, uncertain if I could handle the happiness she radiated amidst my internal storm. As I neared, I saw the masterpiece she had created, a sprawling cake with color and joy that seemed to leap off the canvas. Each sugary swirl recreated the joyousness we had shared earlier, and it struck me like lightning, illuminating the darkest corners of my mind. "This is our cake, together," she exclaimed, beaming with pride. "And there are sprinkles everywhere." But just as I was about to answer, my phone buzzed again. Frustration sparked within me that this device was seeking to drag me back to my worries. I hesitated, one hand reaching for the screen, but her giggles drowned out my apprehensions, and in that moment of choice, watching her innocent delight made it clear that each joyful creation she brought forth was just as vital as the realities haunting me. Then came the urge I want to hold on to this happiness. When I pulled my eyes away, ready to embrace her moment, another wave of realization pressed upon me. Here, in the roller coaster of life I never expected, the fragile spark of joy she had gifted wasn't just a distraction. It was the lifeline to navigate the shimmering chaos ahead. As I gazed at her painted cake, my heart hammered in unison with the realization that this child's world held a brilliance capable of illuminating my darkest paths. Just as we began to share laughter over the giddy, colorful creation, my phone buzzed once more, a stark reminder that my past had not released its grip on me yet. But as I glanced down, finding a new message from the same unfamiliar number, "An unexpected visitor is waiting for you at the office," Lily's laughter filled the air around me, but my heart burned with anxiety for what awaited back in the shadows. Was it trouble? Had my father's choices returned to haunt me during what was supposed to be my happiest moments? The stakes felt higher as I held that painted treasure in my hands and turned my gaze back to the unknown road ahead. With Lily's laughter echoing like a gentle echo of sunlight, my heart wrestled the rising tide of dread. The painted cake in her hands, the colorful swirls, the rich happiness radiating from her soul became a small fortress against the looming storm within the real world. Yet, as the vibrant colors blurred around the edges in my mind, that new message on my phone surged forward, stark and imposing. "An unexpected visitor is waiting for you at the office." The words hung in the air like incense smoke, tantalizing and worrisome, as if the very fabric of joy I was trying to embrace could tear apart at any second. Clenching my phone as if it were a lifeline, I forced myself to look up again, willing the warmth of Lily's exuberance to wash over me. "Do you like it, Scott?" I wanted it to be a surprise. She said, her small face alight with excitement. "It's beautiful," I replied, a smile cracking through the facade of worry that had gripped me. "Just like you," she giggled, the sound like tiny bells chiming, momentarily banishing the storm brewing inside me. It was incredible how a child had the power to infuse the world with joy, to make time feel infinite even just for a single moment. But as I looked at her and felt the weight of my truths, I realized I couldn't keep hiding behind her laughter. I forced myself to put my emotions in check, willing myself not to tread too deeply into troubled waters. "Do you want me to display it at the office?" I offered, seizing the opportunity to enjoy this fragile moment a little longer. "Yes." She shouted, her glee wrapping around me like a warm embrace. "Then everyone can see our cake." As we walked toward the office, side by side, Lily shared playful stories about her favorite flavors and what flavors she imagined each sprinkle embodied. Her vivid imagination reminded me that creativity knew no bounds, a language untainted by the intersection of business and sorrow. But with every step toward my office, I felt the colors of her words fade into the dull hum of corporate life, and the chaos of inheritance loomed larger. The elevator doors slid open with a ding that confirmed my apprehension. I was stepping back into a world where simplicity mingled with complexity, joy entwined with obligation. My office was both a sanctuary and a cage. The modern glass expanse proclaimed success, yet it felt empty the moment Lily and I stepped inside. The way the light poured in, illuminating the surfaces more like a spectacle than a home, reminded me that battles were fought beneath glittering facades. Once inside, she immediately bounded towards my desk, revering the space like it was sacred ground. "Can I put it here?" she asked, pointing to a clear spot crowded with paperwork and an absurd array of trophies. I nodded, watching as she positioned the painting, placing it thoughtfully as if it were a precious artifact. "Look. It's like a real cake," she squealed, her voice bubbling like the laughter of children playing in fountains. A warmth spread through me, and for a flicker of time, I reminded myself of why I had chosen this path, to support a future and legacy, to embrace love and laughter amidst truth. If only I could keep these moments etched in reality, I thought, perhaps I could navigate any darkness that came my way. But my reverie shattered as the door swung open. Through it stepped a figure cloaked in shadows, an aura of familiarity wrapping around him like an old blanket stirring uneasily in the morning light. My stomach knotted instantly. Scott, he greeted, his tone like a distant echo from the past. It's been a while. The unmistakable presence of Thomas, my father's former business partner, filled the room with an unsettling gravity. A man whose name was now etched sharply in my list of concerns, whose interests threatened to unravel everything I clung to. Lily turned toward me, unease flickering across her innocent face. "Who's that?" "Just someone from work," I replied, voice straining to be casual, even as every vestige of tranquility fell into the depths of uncertainty. I could see Thomas' eyes drifting past me, landing on Lily, reading her joy, seeking vulnerability. "Nice to meet you, little artist," he said, his smile an unsettling mix of charm and calculation. "Your project looks delightful. I hope you're not in trouble, Scott." Family business can be so complicated that I felt a chill slide down my spine as I locked eyes with Thomas, the veiled threat hanging between us. There was no warmth in his words, only the chill of probability that my father's legacy and the joy it carried in this moment were imperiled, at risk of being trampled by the steps of men driven by greed. "Lily, would you give Scott and me a moment?" I said, forcing a steadiness into my voice, even as every cell of my being screamed against sending her away. "Do I have to?" She replied, unsure of this shadows lurking around her, but I could sense her innocence warring against a child's instinct. "Yes, please," I insisted, hoping she could read the seriousness in my look. I watched her retreat to a corner of the office, the child in her unfurling layers of unease and hesitance. As soon as she was out of earshot, I turned back to Thomas, the air between us thick with unspoken tension. "What do you want?" His gaze sharpened, an icy ambition embedded in each syllable. "Let's discuss that charity of your father's. I hope you're prepared for a challenge, because I don't intend to back off. You're in deep waters, Scott, and trust meth sharks are circling. I've come to offer you a deal." The ultimatum washed over me in waves, drowning the light brought by Lily's painting. "Out," I snapped, my voice steady yet simmering with the concern that perhaps my father's legacy wasn't the only thing on the line. "Careful now," he warned, his smirk unnervingly calm. "You may soon discover that what you hold dear could slip through your fingers faster than you ever expected. And I intend to ensure the truth gets exposed." And with those words, the security ID felt just moments ago evaporated, leaving only the weight of looming betrayal heavy on my chest. Somewhere beyond the chaos of the boardroom, a little girl had brought me happiness, while inside hidden beneath a calm facade the real fight was only beginning. As Lily looked up, unsure of the growing frost settling over our conversation, my world teetered on the edge. How was I to protect her sweetness from the tangibility of greed, of influence, and the threat that would dash through my serene facade? The brimming hope she had gifted me flickered dimly, wrestling against the pull of a past trying so desperately to drag me under. The stakes had climbed painfully high, and the storm inside me morphed, whispering dire warnings that I feared could drown the light I had discovered. But I couldn't let any walls block out that childlike laughter or the sweetness of friendship we were building. There was an unexpected visitor here now, and his presence threatened to tear down the very fabric of everything I tried to protect. As the tension hung thick in the air, my heart raced, drowning beneath the swell of emotions crashing over me. I was a fortress, built of stone and facades, but the uncertainty wrought by Thomas had begun to chip away at my walls. I had underestimated the power of childhood innocentia, light that should guide my path, but was now at odds with the shadows creeping in. "Scott." Lily's voice broke through the haze, tentative yet full of concern as she stepped closer. "Are you okay?" I forced a smile, a mask too fragile for comfort. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just got caught up in work," I said, hoping to shield her from the turmoil I felt in my gut. But I could see the worry in her eyes, a reflection of my own unease, but Thomas wasn't ready to let go. He leaned casually against my desk, his posture relaxed but predatory. "You should be careful with the company you keep, Scott. Charity is a slippery slope. People want to be on top, and they'll step over anyone who gets in the way. Even children." His words dripped with menace, insinuating darkness that should never stain the beauty of what Lily had created. "Get out," I said again, my voice lowering to a tone with steel, but the desperation rose in my throat. This was not the same man I'd grown up around, whispering promises of legacy and partnership alongside my father. This was a predator, poised to strike, just as I felt my composure falter. Lily, driven by her fear of the discord, thrust herself between USA Defiant's shield, tiny yet fierce. "What do you want from us? Can't you see we were having fun?" Her small hands balled into fists, a warrior's stance despite her size. Caught off guard, Thomas raised an eyebrow, the corners of his mouth twitching towards amusement. "Just a friendly conversation. But I do appreciate your spirit, little artist. Tell me, how much do you love your daddy?" The question seemed innocuous, yet it pierced through the air like a dagger aimed directly at my heart. I felt the primal urge to shield her from this man, or better yet, to obliterate him entirely. The joy she exuded was such a stark contrast to the manipulation lurking in Thomas's dark gaze. More than anything, she declared proudly, "He's the best." Her conviction dripped with the sweetness of innocence, demonstrating a purity I so desperately wanted to protect that I swallowed hard, knowing that her faith in me was a flickering candle in a growing storm. "That's enough, Thomas. Leave her out of this." That he held his hands up, feigning surrender but with a glimmer of triumph in his eyes. "Very well. I won't spoil your family moment." He paused, leaning closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "But I'm coming for what's mine, Scott. Don't say I didn't warn you about the tides. The last thing I want is for the truth to get messy." As the door swung shut behind him, the air felt charged, suffocating almost, as the weight of his words settled over my shoulders like a dark shroud. I turned to Lily, who looked up at me with genuine concern written all over her face, her innocence now tangled in the aftermath of a confrontation she couldn't fully understand. "Dad, why was he being mean?" she asked quietly, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, as if trying to absorb the conflict that had just permeated our sanctuary. A lump formed in my throat, the gravity of the moment pulling me into an abyss I wasn't sure I could escape. He was just confused, honey. Bad people can sometimes talk in ways that hurt others. But I promise you, we'll be okay, I replied, my words trembling as they escaped me, filled not with confidence, but with a desperate hope. "But he scared me," she said, her voice small, eyes turning towards me, seeking protection. "That I know, sweetheart. But remember the cake and how you created it." I grasped at the fragments of positivity, refusing to let fear dominate. The best things in life, love, laughter, are often threatened by the darkness. You have the power to bring back the light, and am going to keep that safe. As I watched her nod, her confidence wavering yet rekindled by my words, I held on to that flicker. She didn't deserve to be enmeshed in this struggle of wills, drowning in complexities meant for adults. All I wanted was to preserve her laughter, her light, and this small moment we had carved out together that day. Just then, a message pinged on my phone, shattering my fragile thoughts. Glancing down, my heart dropped as light flooded out of my eyes, disbelief wrapping around my limbs in an icy grip. "I'm sorry to inform you, Scott. Thomas is not alone in this. The board met today and decided to pursue the charity's leadership, considering you unfit due to your unprofessional behavior. Expect a formal notice, effective immediately." The screen buzzed in my palm, a siren warning me of impending doom, and I fought the tears welling up. A nervous pulse thudded in my ears as layers of postponement crumbled without my consent, spreading fear through my veins. "Dad." Lily's voice squeaked, shock ripping through her innocence, as she noticed my pale complexion. My silence morphed into a long shadow as my spirit threatened to crack. "Just give me a moment, okay?" I murmured, but the words felt hollow. I doubted even this could shelter her from the storm brewing outside. Lily took a step back, brows knitting together, casting her own shadows of worry. The moment we had been dialed down to turn faint, like colors bleeding, fabric unraveling at the seams. The battle was only just beginning, and with every tick of the clock, the more certain I became that protecting her from the overwhelming tide would mean sacrificing something deep within myself. What I had grasped tightly so far began to slip away like sand through my fingers. The door burst open again, and I suddenly found myself face to face with someone I had not expected to see. Me, mother, stricken with fear and urgency. "Scott!" she gasped, an urgent frown clouding her features. I need to talk to you about your father's will. It's worse than we thought, and just like that, in the blink of an eye, another wave crashed over me, dragging me further into uncertainty, testing the foundation built on love and laughter, struggling against the dark undercurrents threatening to pull us all beneath. The heaviness of my mother's words pressed down like a physical weight, an anchor pulling me further into the depths of uncertainty. I could see the fear etched into her face, lines of concern carving deeper as she drew closer, her eyes darting between me and Lily, whose small frame remained silently perplexed by our conversation. What do you mean it's worse? I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady. Each word felt like a thread fraying in the fabric of our already tattered reality. Her gaze flickered, a storm of emotion brewing just beneath the surface. Your father's estate, it's tied up in legal complications, and if Thomas has his way, you could lose everything, Scott. The charity, the house, your claim over any of it. That I felt heat prickling at the back of my neck. Anger and resentment boiled beneath the surface. Everything he's done has been a power play. He's not here for the charity, he's here to destroy what's left of our family legacy. Lily's hand found mine, her small fingers wrapping around my own tightly, sensing the rising storm. Dad? She whispered, her usual sparkle dimming. What does that mean? I knelt down to her level, forcing a smile despite the dread pooling in my stomach. It means that we just have to be smart. We'll figure this out together, just like I promised. But the truth of it was, I felt lost at sea. I had been underestimating Thomas for too long, assuming his vendetta against me was just a passing storm. But with my mother's revelation, it felt more like a devastating hurricane, a force too big for me to manage alone. Scott, my mother urged, her voice thick with anxiety. You have to act quickly. Thomas is manipulating everyone, we can't let him take your position in the charity. If he gets control over it, with how fragile things are, he's just waiting for a slip-up. Please stop. I shook my head, exhaustion creeping into my bones. I can't deal with this right now, not when what? She pressed, her voice rising with desperation. You have a daughter to protect. She's the light in this darkness, and if you don't fight for her, you might lose everything. You need to be strong for her, for yourself. Lily's eyes widened, soaking in the weight of our conversation. I turned from my mother to her, searching for the right words, desperate to shield her as best as I could. I'm trying, honey. I promise I'm trying. Just then, in the distance, laughter echoed through the hallway, a reminder of the sweetness that came from Lily's creative spirit. With a sudden rush of determination, I stood tall, remembering the cake we'd made just hours ago. We need to keep our spirits up, don't we? There's a festival this afternoon, and we should go, right? Lily perked up, her innocence reclaiming its space amidst the chaos. Can we see the fireworks? She asked, eyes sparkling with childlike wonder. Absolutely, I replied, swallowing down my own apprehension. It was as if I could see the flicker of hope reigniting within her. And we'll get ice cream, too. My mother observed our exchange, her expression softening though concern still lingered in her eyes. Just remember, you can't do this alone, Scott. You have to lean on the people around you. We can fight this together. A small part of me recoiled from the Idami instinct to be the protector, the solitary guardian of our world. But in that moment, as I looked at Lily, drawing strength from her innocent radiance, I knew that I needed to embrace the support surrounding me. Even when my heart felt shackled, the warmth of my resolve flickered briefly as I turned my gaze back to Lily. Let's grab your favorite sweater, and then we'll head to the festival. She nodded, excitement bubbling up again as she ran off to get ready. I felt a swirl of emotions, a mix of love, sorrow, and desperation knitting together. I glanced at my mother, who was now standing near the door, deep in thought. Scott, she said gently, if it comes to it, you may need to confront Thomas directly. Bring him in's how him you want back down. He's banking on your fear. Confront him. The thought sent shivers through me. He's playing a game that I can hardly comprehend. Then you need to become the player he never saw coming, she countered, her voice steady. Be the protector of that light he's trying to extinguish, whether it's for your daughter or the charity. As she spoke those words, a flicker of bravery ignited within me. Perhaps every tear we shed, every moment of hesitation, was merely a stepping stone to something more powerful. I could feel it pressing against my chest, this need to rise, to shield Lily's laughter and protect the ideals we held dear. With a newfound flicker of determination, I hugged my mother tightly. "I'll find my way," I promised. But just as the last syllable escaped my lips, a frantic series of knocks came from the door. My heart raced as I pulled apart from her embrace and opened the door, finding Thomas standing on the other side, his smirk replaced by a cold, unyielding expression. "Scott," he began, voice low and dangerous, "we need to talk. You've left me no choice." Tension wound itself around us as I felt Lily slide behind me, her presence a comforting anchor against the brewing storm. The cliff we stood upon felt ever so precarious, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to take the leap into the wild unknown that lay ahead. I never expected a little girl's gesture would bring a lonely CEO to tears on his birthday, but standing in that office, facing the uncertainty that Thomas represented, the stakes felt impossibly high. It was as if everything I had fought for, every moment of joy I had shared with Lily, was teetering on a knife's edge. Inside, the tempest roared, but I refused to let it shatter the fragile light of hope flickering between us. "Let's talk," I said, keeping my tone steady despite the storm swirling within me. I turned, allowing Lily to find refuge in my shadow, her small fingers curling around my arm, seeking reassurance. I felt her warmth seep into my being, steadying the crackling dread that threatened to unravel everything. "Honestly, Scott," Thomas began, his voice almost a whisper but laced with the venom of his intent, "you should have known better than to think you could keep the legacy without consequences. The board isn't aligned with you, and it's clear you're struggling. This charity business, it's not about ideals. It must be controlled by you." I shot back, my voice rising not out of fear but passion, fueled by the need to protect this child behind me. "This isn't about control, Thomas. This is about creating something good. Something my father envisioned, a beacon of hope, not manipulation." That he smirked, an insidious glimmer sparking in his eyes. "Your father would have wanted stability, Scott. He left you everything to keep it safe. You think your absence of action won't have repercussions?" The familiar bitterness rose up my throat as he spoke about my father, those years lost to miscommunication and misunderstanding flashing through my mind. "You'll make deals for his name while I safeguard the very essence of his legacy, the essence that you're trying to suffocate." That a flicker of irritation crossed Thomas' face, and he stepped forward, pushing the boundaries of my composure. "Think about this carefully. If the board votes against you, you can lose everything: your position, the charity, even your precious daughter's place there." That I felt the air thicken, each word he spoke wrapping around my heart, squeezing until I could scarcely breathe. But the memory of Lily's laughter broke through. The memory of the cake we'd drawn together just hours ago, the laughter, the joy, none of that could be forsaken no matter the lurking darkness around us. "Lily," I turned my head slightly, gauging her expression. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the turmoil painted across my own. And in that moment, a profound truth settled in my chest: if losing control meant embracing love and laughter, then it was a price I was willing to pay. "Thomas," I said with resolve, feeling each syllable rise against the tide of fear. "You think you have the power here, but you're mistaken. I won't let you manipulate us into a corner. You're right about one thing: this family is fragile. But I will not turn against it. I will fight." Lily stepped out from behind my side, her voice brimming with the courage of a child. "You don't scare my daddy," she shouted, surprising both him and me with her confidence. "He's braver than you." Thomas took a step back, momentarily caught off guard. "You think this is a game? Kids shouldn't be in the middle." "This isn't a game," I shouted. "This is my daughter. A child you will never understand. You cannot take this from us." A tense silence hung in the air for a moment, as his arrogance met the steadfastness of our bond. I bent low to Lily's level, letting her tiny hand rest on my shoulder, protecting her fragile heart just as she inspired me to embrace my own, showing me that softness can drive out the cold. "I'm here, Lily, and I will fight for you and for what's right. And together, well, make sure Thomas knows he can't take this happiness from us." The colors that lived in Lily's drawing seemed to flicker around us, surrounding the stillness of confrontation. The worries huddled at the edges of my heart felt diminished in her presence. She wasn't just a child trapped in a mess, she was an embodiment of hope, of persistence, of everything good we could build. Our boldness ignited a flame in the sluggish room, a push against the coldness that Thomas was trying to usher in. The tension was palpable, and as I watched him process our strength, I felt the weight lift ever so slightly. "Did I leave you two to it?" Thomas scoffed, backing towards the door, his disdain evident. "But mark my words, Scott. This dance is far from over." He left, a shadow retreating into the chaos he thrived on, his threats hanging in the air like a bitter promise. As the door clicked closed behind him, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I had been holding. Lily looked up at me, her big eyes searching, and in that gaze, everything and nothing seemed to matter. "Did I help?" she asked, a tenderness shaking her voice. "More than you know," I said, kneeling to embrace her tightly. She squeezed me back, warmth flowing between us like electricity. But where there was darkness, there was also light, and I realized that I didn't have to fight alone. My mother's words resonated in my mind. To lean on those around you. Somehow, I had all these connections. Lily's brightness was my anchor in the storm, my mother's guidance grounded me, and soon I would seek support to weather the path ahead. "Let's get that ice cream, shall we?" I suggested, ruffling her hair as she beamed up at me, her spirit budding again beneath a tumultuous sky. "Yay. She chirped, her glow infectious. As we ventured out, I felt its energy wrapped around us, a cocoon of resilience formed from love and laughter, one that might just illuminate the most turbulent paths in life. Each step we took toward the exit felt like reclaiming our world, a reminder that happiness was our true inheritance, not wealth, or power, or legacies, but the moments we created together. And while the journey had just begun, I knew that with Lily at my side, I could face whatever came next, be it ice cream, the festival, or the pressing reality waiting just outside the office. Because every challenge we faced would mark the tapestry of our story, woven with threads of love, courage, and the indelible spirit of a little girl teaching a lonely CEO what truly mattered. "Well, make that cake together," I promised as we stepped into the vibrant light of day, heart racing with the prospect of what lay ahead. "And this time, I won't just let it represent the past. Well, fill it with all our joys and all our victories." The sun glimmered down, and even as uncertainties lingered, I knew the real battle lay wrapped in the moments we created, a celebration of our lives above and beyond the shadows. And with our laughter echoing in the air, the world felt a little less daunting. In that instant, standing there with Lily, I found peace enveloping me like the warm embrace of a bright summer morning, repeating the words that had become my guiding light. Together, and as the festival lights danced in the distance, illuminated by the laughter that flowed from our hearts, I understood deeply, the most beautiful legacies were rooted in love, one small gesture at a time.